the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Please be seated. So this last Wednesday morning, we were gathered for Eucharist, and we were reading this Sunday's reading, and someone said, "Haven't we read this before?" And thinking that it was the previous week's. We are still in the very long, seemingly redundant bread discourse of chapter 6 of the Gospel of John. I promise it's the last week. So this is the last of the bread for a little while. The first week I was here, I made a confession that I love bread. This week, I'd like to make a confession that I also love bread's cousin, cake. And so to start off, I have a really important theological question. Your eternal life might hang on this. Totally kidding. Please don't tell the bishop I just said that. Which do you prefer, chocolate or vanilla? Those who like vanilla, raise their hand. Those who prefer chocolate. Those who don't care as long as it's cake. So one of the things I had to sacrifice by coming down here to Florida was giving up the opportunity to regularly shop at the grocery store Wegmans. As some of you know, I love Wegmans. Not only do I love Wegmans, I love that you can go to the bakery section and you don't have to buy an entire cake. You can buy a slice of cake. And you can buy their delicious chocolate cake. I discovered that every time I take a bite of that chocolate cake, I am reminded of my grandmother because it tastes just like the chocolate cake that she used to make. The icing is the exact same. I don't know what is in it, but bam, every time I take a bite of that cake, I am transported back to my grandmother's kitchen, sitting at the kitchen table with a tall glass of cold milk. I love it. And when I get transported back there, I feel once again safe and loved simply for being me. And I feel this overwhelming sense of peace and joy. Who knew that chocolate cake had so much power? Nowadays, politics can become a bit overwhelming at times. So what do? I get some cake. Office drama, overwhelming. Not here, not yet anyway. I don't think ever. But office drama gets too much. What do? Eat some cake. The wrong person gets the rose on The Bachelor. Eat some cake. Anytime I spend time on social media, eat some cake. Life is not easy. There's war, extreme poverty, climate change, oppression of marginalized people, and then closer to home, there's illnesses, the death of loved ones, our own changing health as we get older. And I can say that because I understand why most people have their kids in their 20s and not their 40s. Our bodies are not the same as we get older. All of that is reality. So what should we do as we face these realities? Find an entire cake to eat, not just a slice. And then we come here to church and we hear the gospel and we are reminded what Jesus invites us into. And we're reminded that the reality is that being a Christ follower is not always easy. It is countercultural. It is certainly not self-serving, at least not in the immediate future. In the long run, I think we'll be okay. But in the immediate present time, What Christ asks us to do is to be often selfless. It asks us to love those neighbors and love our enemies. Being a Christ follower and a kingdom builder means being asked to do some not so comfortable things. And let's remember, those things got Jesus killed. Jesus asks us to eat his body and drink his blood. And in part, this means recognizing the sacrifice that Jesus has made, offering up his body for us. And as we become what we eat, we are invited to pick up our own cross and follow. No wonder why so many of the disciples, not the crowd in today's reading, but the disciples said, "This stuff is tough. Who can accept it? I'm out of here." Sorry, guys, if our membership goes down after today. So, in that reality, in the reality that this is tough work, what gives us strength? What strengthens our vision and our resolve to be Christ followers and kingdom builders? If we had more time, I'd love to hear some of your responses right now, but I'll refrain from asking. But I will give you a clue. The answer is not chocolate cake. I think the clue is something else that Jesus says. When Jesus again and again and again and again throughout the Gospel of John reminds us to abide in him, to return to this living and loving God and abide in God. Today's Gospel reading suggests that this abiding and dwelling with Jesus brings life, even in the midst of the things that make us feel death or feel like death. And aspects of this abiding can be found at this table. Now, there are many gifts and blessings wrapped up in this communion meal. One of those gifts is that it transports us slightly like that Wegmans chocolate cake, transporting us to a place of peace and joy, but certainly on a much deeper, more holistic level. This clue comes in the words of the institution when Jesus says, "Do this in remembrance of me." My seminary professors taught me that the idea of remembering for the Jewish community is different, and it's kind of cool. It's not just an intellectual exercise where we look back on something that happened in the past, but it's actually a rejoining with a previous event or group of people. So remember is like reattaching a member of the body to the whole. Remember. So when we receive communion, we're not only participating in a meal that is happening at 10:05 on the 25th of August, 2024, but we are participating in that one sacred meal that Jesus shared over 2,000 years ago. It's a single meal that spans across space and time. And we participate in it as we remember Jesus. And we are rejoined with every single person who has ever taken part of this meal. And we are rejoined with every single person who will ever take part of this meal. And in part, this rejoining or remembering means returning to a place of peace and joy. To breathe, to steady ourselves, and to then face the challenges ahead. As I remember my grandmother's kitchen table, I individually am strengthened. But when we come to this table, it's a communal or collective remembering, and we are then collectively strengthened for the journey that is set ahead of us. So we are now in a new season here at Iona Hope. I was taught in seminary by multiple professors the wisdom that when you begin a new ministry, you do not move the furniture for at least a year. I usually follow that, but not always. Similarly, when I was a missionary, the organization I went with, they really encouraged us to go into our new city that we were living in, to go into it with the mindset of being a learner, to spend a whole year not doing stuff, but being a learner. Learning how to speak the language, learning how to cook these veggies that I've never seen before on an apparatus that I don't even know how to turn on, learning the understanding of the culture around, but then also understanding the needs of that community and learning the assets that they already have. Learning. Not going in presuming that I know everything already, because the truth is I don't. And that's the same here. If you hired me thinking that I know everything, I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, I don't. So as I approach this new season at Iona, I invite all of us to approach it as learners in this coming season. Maybe not a whole year, but at least a few months of learning together, to take stock of where we have been, and then to listen to where the Spirit is leading us in the future. So over the next few months, I'm going to try to find some creative ways for us to remember, to reconnect with the history of Iona Hope, so that we can be intentional about having a foundation of collective memory that we can go back to and draw on for peace and joy, so that we can give thanks for where we have been, so that we can intentionally build upon that, and so that we can acknowledge the places that have been a little less fun, a little less comfortable, those places where there might still be wounds that need to heal, so that we can acknowledge those and move forward. And I say that we don't look back so that we can return to the church of 2000. We look back so that we can learn from it and move forward to new things that God is asking us to do and be. I know that's tough for some people to hear. We will never again be the church of 2000, and we're not called to be. We are called to be the church of today and the church of tomorrow. So we look back so we can move forward. So, with that, hopefully you have been given a green piece of paper. If you haven't, it's okay, you can grab it on the way out. This is your homework assignment. You have homework, y'all. I hope that's okay. I invite you this week to spend some time in prayer and in gratitude, and ask yourself, what is something that you remember about Iona Hope that brings you peace and joy, comfort and hope? What moments, whether it be people, places, or events, do you go back to give you strength to keep going forward into the future? What is one thing that you hold on to? Spend some time, write it down. If it's a full-on story and you want to make sure I know the full story, I want to hear the full story, that's part of the learning process, you can write it out, type it up, send it to me some other way. We can go out for coffee or lunch, and you can tell it to me. But on this green piece of paper, put the summary. And then when you come back next week, there's going to be a timeline on the front of the booth. Okay? And over the next few months, we're going to fill that timeline up. We're going to fill it up with our history, the things that have happened, both the obvious things of when we started in the Bridge Club, when we moved here, who was rector when. We'll do those things. But then I want to hear the important things for you. When did you arrive? When did your kids get married here? When did your grandkids get baptized? Whatever it was, whatever monumental moments took place here as this community, please put it up. If you have pictures, bring pictures in and let's get those up there too, because we are visual people, at least I am. So let's fill that out so we can look at it together and collectively remember what our history is here at Iona Hope. So we can give thanks, so we can be strengthened by it, so we can listen to the Spirit and know where we are being called to go into the future. So, that's your homework. But for now, let us once again come to this table to remember and return to the place that brings us peace and joy, no matter what is going on around us. Come, taste and see that the Lord is good.